I want to be totally honest, I tuned into Romantics thinking that this is going to be just another fluff piece celebrating YRF on the surface level, not really getting into the frailties as a company over the years. I was instantly rolling my eyes as I heard Uday Chopra's American accent, John Abraham hilariously being placed in front of a gym, and Ranveer Singh excited as ever appearing with a boombox blasting a YRF song. It all seemed so on the nose and pretentious from the onset, and little did I envision that this 4-episode series on Netflix will become a goldmine for anyone who has grown up with Hindi cinema. The documentary called The Romantics, specifically laying focus on the career of Yash Chopra, his adaptation to the evolution of films, and the legacy being expanded by Aditya Chopra, does not only focus on all their achievements but the several creative and financial issues they endured over the years. One of the most compelling aspects of the documentary was how a creator like Yash Chopra told his stories dependent on the decade in which they released. A man under his brother's wing, B.R. Chopra, was directing movies like Dhool Ka Phool and Dharmputra in the 50s, focusing on religious harmony in the midst of extremism post-India's independence. Yash Chopra may be remembered for his romantic films, but what people often forget is the compelling ways he told stories across genres, not only providing social and political commentary at the start of his career, which is still relevant today, but exactly knowing the mood of the nation as it was embroiled in the draconian law during the emergency period in the mid-70s, which led to the birth of the angry young man with movies like Diwar and Kala Patthar. Yash Chopra was no one-trick pony, and this probably was one of the reasons for the man's longevity as a director and producer. You also write down in the comments below which film for you stood the test of time over the years. The sentiment and mood of the country would often dictate the kind of movies that would be doing well at the box office, and while Yash Chopra seamlessly adapted to different eras, what was the most interesting was his struggle to understand the mood of the audience in the 80s. The onset of the VCR had considerably reduced the footfalls to theatres. The soft romantic films like Kabhi Kabhi and social commentary movies were not the talk of the town. There was a huge influence of Tamil and Telugu cinema, and there was a surge in mass action films, making me think, and you can also tell me in the comments below what you think about the same, on whether post the pandemic we are in the same era or not. If we just replace the VCR with the advent of OTT platforms, there are several parallels we can create from now in the 80s. The influence of the southern market, mass action on the rise, and the irrelevance of social commentary films in theatres, and a case of reducing footfalls as well due to the digital boom. His stint with the movies like Silsila and multi-starrers like Vijay did not work in the 80s, but as Yash Chopra returned back to romance with Chandni, there was no looking back. What was, however, the biggest revelation for me through this documentary is the foresight that Aditya Chopra had for the company and how mindful he was of the mood of the audience. A director and producer who barely makes public appearances was obsessed with cinema, critically analyzing the merits and demerits of a film, formulating a box office report at a young age in his notebook of films that came out. As he took the director's chair and Hindi films became more aspirational post-liberalization in the 90s, Shah Rukh Khan and Romance Abroad really became the talk of the town. It was really interesting for me to see two aspects of how this company evolved over the years, how it produced an array of films across genres. It would do a Hum Tum for the multiplex audience and do a Chak De as well, a case of producing a movie like Salam Namaste and also putting their bets on Rocket Singh and Dum Laka Ke Haisha. I can't tell you how the 10-year-old me was giddy as they spoke about Dhoom and its impact, because I don't think people realize how iconic it was to see John hit the NOS button on his sports bike. Secondly, sticking by theatrical releases, YRF, while having an abysmal 2022, are the only company that stuck it out with distributors and theatres, not going for the digital route with their films from the onset. If you honestly ask me about the documentary and what were slightly uncomfortable moments, it has to be them expanding about nepotism and how despite the privilege they could not make Uday Chopra a star. But what I think people are still naive about is that the individual is still given several chances to prove their mettle, something an outsider just does not have the privilege of. Most outsiders are written off with one or two films and struggle to get more opportunities, whereas most star kids are cushioned for people to take risks with them. Secondly, Lily Singh I think was just the token NRI who had barely anything to contribute in the documentary. I could intersperse it with a foreigner's react video and it would be the same thing. Irrespective, the documentary does end on a bittersweet note, but something that I would highly recommend to all of you, especially if you've grown up with Hindi cinema and want to understand its evolution over several decades. It's not preachy at all and it actually is very insightful. With all the films that I caught up in 1 or 2 days, the only Hindi film was Lost, that released on Z5 today, starring Yami Gautam in the lead role and directed by Anirudh Roy Chaudhary. The film is an investigative thriller that focuses on a journalist digging deep to understand the motive and reason for the disappearance of a theatre performer, Ishan Bharti. The reason for Ishan's disappearance shifts from romantic relationships to possible extremism, but as politicians and police take a keen interest in Vidhi's research, she realizes that this is way more complicated than it seems. I had huge expectations from this film because it comes from a very talented director, Anirudh Roy Chaudhary, the same man who created Pink, and someone whose Bengali filmography also impressed me, especially Onoranan and Ontohin. With the running time of just close to 2 hours, Lost is visually compelling as it beautifully captures Vidhi's quest for answers across Kolkata. The old world charm of the city really does extract such a beautiful playground for investigative thrillers, captured extremely well by cinematographer Avik Mukhopadhyay. As the running minutes of the movie progress, you conclude that this movie definitely is biting more than it can chew, highlighting several social, political and cultural topics in the midst of seeking for the truth. The film sheds light on the issues of the caste system, the prejudice that people have, how law and order is often dictated by the rich and influential, and how Vidhi gets stuck between seeking for the truth and doing the right thing. All this in the midst of understanding the purpose of disappearance makes the narrative of Lost actually its title. Lost in what it exactly wanted to say. One thing that people cannot fault, however, are the performances of the actors. Yami Gautam as Vidhi is a workaholic, extremely inquisitive of each development and extremely fearless. It is absolutely insane on the conviction that she brings to each role, yet we see so little of her in commercial projects. But from the interviews I've understood, she's actually very categorical of the kind of movies she wants to feature in, so more power to her. Rahul Khanna, a very interesting choice as a worthy opponent, and Pankaj Kapoor playing Yami's Nana really understand the assignment and the pitch at which the film is presented. It is, however, the screenplay that really lets the overall film down, leaving several loopholes and unanswered questions in the process. One of the most jarring aspects of the film's screenplay is the abrupt integration of music. Scenes where the characters are being interrogated are halted for no apparent reason with a romantic track. The background score assists almost every scene, sometimes where it's not even needed, and the odd editing of music in the middle of the film's narrative as it's actually picking up pace just seems like an odd choice. I wanted to root for this film, but you can clearly tell that there is a gap between intention versus execution. I always root for an actor like Yami Gautam, who has created a space for herself despite the several roadblocks that come with the nature of this industry. But when the script gets so muddled that an investigative thriller does not have you on the edge of your seat, then you know it somewhat got lost in translation. A movie whose premise had so much potential but eventually loses its bearings of what it exactly wanted to convey. The real binge that I went on, however, this weekend and the days that followed was catching up on movies from Kerala that I missed out on. I wanted to first start off with a film that I was hounded about the most, and it was the blockbuster film Malikappuram, starring Unni Krishnan in the lead role, which is now available on DisneyPlus Hotstar. This movie has done unprecedented numbers at the box office, and I wondered what all the fuss was about. We usually correlate Malayalam cinema with storytelling that has a lot of subtext and nuance, but Malikappuram is as simple and basic as it gets from a screenplay point of view. The film focuses on the desire of Kallu, played by a lovely Devananda, to visit Lord Ayappa in Sabrimala temple. The circumstances that lead to her embarking on this journey with her friend Piyush and Unni Mukundan forms the basic premise of this film. The movie is extremely simple and sweet. I was absolutely blown away by the confidence and screen presence of the child actors in this movie. Devananda as Kallu has such a wide-eyed curiosity and charm to her presence, and Piyush, played by Sripat Yan, is a firecracker, always having tricks up his sleeve to get out of trouble. While the movie does take the predictable route with the evil antagonist that hampers their journey, Unni Mukundan really brings a sincerity to his performance, being the guiding light for the young kids as they visit their revered god. I understand why a devotional movie like this does well at the box office, and in the midst of movies that have such stark subtext and social commentary, in comes a very simple narrative focusing on the abundant love that one has for their savior, without it being forced down your throat, and it being anchored by such lovable kids. It instantly clicks with audiences. The film, however, that left me in absolute splits in theatres was watching Romancham, directed by Jeetu Madhavan, a horror comedy that integrates such interesting ideas in a genre that usually has very predictable beats. A group of boys living together in Bangalore out of sheer boredom ditch the idea of volleyball and call the spirit using their makeshift Ouija board. What stemmed from just being idle in life becomes a way bigger problem than they anticipated. It absolutely blows my mind sometimes when I see how well produced Malayalam films are. Romancham, mostly set in one house, just is a great example of effective storytelling that can be achieved without lavish sets or abundant production. The music assisting the screenplay by Sushin Shyam is exceptional, the right kind of zany, fun and quirkiness needed for the pitch of the film. While the entire crew of boys put forth hilarious performances, it is Sobin Shahir and especially Arjun Ashokan who in his brief appearance steals the show. His broad smile and odd pauses in the middle of meals accounted for several laugh-out-loud moments and a movie that really packed the punch with laughs and inventive ideas. I can't wait for what's in store ahead in the universe, and that's a hint for you to watch this movie in theaters near you or when it comes on a digital platform. A Malayalam film, however, that absolutely left me an emotional mess was Saudi Vellakka, directed by Tarun Murthy, a movie that I would highly recommend to all of you and which is available on SonyLIV. It is a film that focuses on a case of an elderly woman hitting a child using a small coconut, a consequence of getting hit by a rock as children were playing cricket. Due to injuries caused to the child, the old woman has to deal with a legal process that carries on for several years. The movie is a slow burn, but so effective in getting its point across about not only the archaic ways of our legal system, but humans and how they react to circumstances. As pandemonium occurs post the woman's arrest, the herd reacts to the incident in their own way. But an exceptional Devi Varma playing Aisha persists. The years pass by, the people wither, but the solution remains distant. Aisha accepts this as her fate and reality despite having become a lone wolf in the battle. As more and more movies focus on the heartlessness of humans in a world driven by greed, this is a rare film that will really restore your faith in humans genuinely concerned for one another, having abundant empathy and love. I immediately started bawling at the beautiful conclusion of this film, and one is reminded that our systems might be rot, but when one is seeking for the best for each other, it really goes a long way. Devi Varma and her conviction as the lead with the directorial prowess of Tarun Murthy really won my heart over. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what are your recommendations this week and what did you think about the Romantics, the Malayalam releases I spoke about and Lost. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.